Hello everyone. I wanted to talk about a video that I just watched. It was by a channel called Pop Goes the 60s. It's a new channel that I've kind of just discovered for myself. And Matt Williamson is the person who makes the videos. And I got to tell you, I highly recommend this channel. Right at the beginning, I'll tell you to go over there and check it out because Matt makes very thought-provoking kind of videos. And two of the videos I'll talk about a little bit here at the beginning that I've enjoyed. One of them was discussing Pete Best and doing some real detailed thinking and points made to talk about whether or not he was the best drummer for the Beatles and the reason he was truly let go from the Beatles and putting that all in its proper perspective. Another video I liked by Matt was a video talking about the arguments during the Get Back sessions, particularly the incident with Paul and George, as shown in the film, where he says, well, I'll play whatever you want me to play, or I won't play at all, and so on. And he goes really through painstaking detail and accounts all the dialogue that was actually said within those sessions. We didn't get to hear all of that within the Let It Be film itself, but he made a real convincing argument that really the argument in the film is not as bad as portrayed in the movie. So my point is, I respect this channel and I really think he does a lot of good work from what I've seen so far. However, this video today that I saw really was completely befuddling to me. He did a video that he called pretty much, about the relevance of McCartney 3, the album that's recently come out by Paul McCartney. But talking about whether or not Paul is still relevant, and it was highly a video that discussed the marketing ploy that Paul and his team did to try to sell this record. Now, this is old news by this particular time. I was kind of put off by it because he claimed that this was a McCartney 3 review. If you'll notice, at the very end of his video, he says, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, maybe not every exact word, but he says something like, and that is my review of McCartney 3. Ironically, he did not review McCartney 3. What he did was he reviewed the marketing strategy to sell McCartney 3. That's how I take it. He didn't talk about the music at all. Now, I've gone on record here several times. In the beginning, when I first heard about the marketing nonsense that was going on with Paul, I said, and I'm the first one to say and admit, it was really out of control. The marketing that was going on here, various colored pressings, about, I don't know if it's 8, 9, 10 or more pressings in different colors of the album, none of which we're required to buy, by the way, was a little out of control. It was a little crazy. We never really saw the likes of this kind of extreme marketing before, and all of the kinds of bells and whistles and toys and gimmicks and gadgets you could get with the McCartney 3 album. So the question is whether or not Paul, these days in his life, is able to sell just his music, or is he selling an idea or a gimmick to all his fans? As I said, that's history. That's over with now, all these colored vinyl things. This is the month of February as I make this video. And it was back in December that Paul and his team were pushing all these kinds of products for the diehard collectors to get. Paul, it's no secret, Paul wants to be number one. He wants to get to be number one. And so McCartney 3 did manage to hit the number one slot in England, largely because of the marketing campaign. I get that. But my take on this is that Paul's album would have been pretty high on the charts, even if he didn't do any marketing. Would it have hit number one? That's doubtful, I'll give you that. However, albums by Paul before this one and before Egypt Station, they routinely get in the top 5. They'd be number 5, they'd be number 3. So, Paul is almost 80 years old, close to 80 now, right? Late 70s. So, he's not going to be as important to a lot of people buying records, especially younger people, as Taylor Swift might be, We get that. But he's still a hell of a lot more relevant and interesting and important to record buyers at this late a date in his age than most other people his age. So I think it's all a matter of perspective. Is he as sought after as he was in the 60s or 70s or even the early 80s? No. Is he still somewhat relevant? Hell yeah. And the most important thing is, when this promotional blitz first came out, it was all about the promotion. Nobody'd heard the album yet. All we knew was that he had all these different record colors, vinyl coming out. All we knew was that he had all these different types of bells and whistles and gadgets to enjoy, to buy. Nobody'd heard a note of the music yet everybody was buying. Paul still wants to be number one, and that's up to him, I guess, because if I was him, I'd say, look, I'm not going to go and sink down to selling all kinds of varied wax colors and all kinds of varied trinkets and things like that just to get to be number one. If I'm number 5, if I'm number 4, 3, that's fine with me. I don't have to be number one. That's what I would do. But this is Paul, and at this age, he has to do it. But the main point that I want to stress here is that at first, in December of 2020, everything was about the marketing. But once people actually heard the music, once the album came out and we all listened to it, I feel very comfortable now in saying that it's considered a success. It's considered a thumbs up. This album is not a bad album. It's a very good album. Not everybody's going to agree. Your mileage may vary. Everybody has different tastes in music. Not everybody feels the same way. Some people didn't like this album and some love it. I personally think it's very good. I think it's better than Egypt Station, his last album. And I think that after all is said and done, in the future, what is going to stand out about this album is that it's really a good album in Paul's overall catalog for his entire career. It may not be in the top 5. Maybe not. Some people are already putting it in the top 5, I got to tell you. So if this album had come out after all that marketing frenzy, and if it had been a dog, if it had been a bomb, if it had been lousy, if it had been a real embarrassment musically to Paul, then I could understand the point of Pop Goes the 60s. But as it turned out, the critics and fans alike, overall, after all the opinions are weighed, came up with this as being a very successful and worthy Paul effort, and proves that Paul is still relevant. So whether you like it or not, overall, history is going to show this is pretty much an acclaimed album. If not the greatest thing he's ever done, still a positive album, a good album. So some of the naysayers out there, you're entitled to your opinion. Obviously, please voice it. However, let's be honest, a lot of you out there, I know from personal experience, already had your minds made up to trash this album before it even was released. When you first heard months ago there was going to be a McCartney 3 album, already you had it crossed off your list. And you didn't want to kind of eat crow and say, I got to admit, I didn't think much of this album, but when I heard about it, that it was coming, but having heard it open-mindedly, it's a good record. Not everybody's going to do that. They want to keep their reputation. They want to keep their original, forecast in stone. So basically, that's my take on this. I'd like to know what your take is. Yeah, I'm calling attention to Pop Goes the 60s channel because I think it's a good channel from what I've seen. I've only watched a few videos, but I've been very impressed, and I want to give credit where it's due. However, I was really in disagreement with this latest video that Matt Williamson did. I really think that he's reviewing the marketing strategy, which he is, but don't say in the video, and that's my review of McCartney 3, because you haven't reviewed any of the music. Hopefully you will at some point with an open mind, and the bottom line is, after all is said and done, and we read the Beatles and solo Beatles history books that are printed 10, 20, 30, 50 years from now, all they're going to talk about are the virtues of McCartney 3, and they're not going to be talking about the old, passé, long-forgotten marketing blitz of the winter of 2020. Thanks, everybody.